The training grounds outside Buenos Aires were quiet that morning. Too quiet. Usually there'd be music playing from someone's speaker, laughter from rondo circles, a ball bouncing off a post. But today, silence. Lionel Messi arrived 18 minutes early, as he always did. He walked into the facility, nodded to staff, and found his usual spot in the locker room. Back corner, left side, third seat. But something was off. No Scaloni, no agenda taped to the board. Instead, standing at the front of the room was Coach Ramirez, assistant manager, longtime fitness coordinator, and, for this week, the interim voice in charge. Scaloni, we were told, had flown back to Rosario for a family emergency. He left behind notes, plans, and, most importantly, trust. But Ramirez had plans of his own. He wasn't malicious. He was ambitious. For years, he'd watched Messi command every session, every tactic, every locker room moment. He respected him. But he believed Argentina needed to evolve, faster. He stood in front of the team and spoke plainly. "We're changing things up," he said. "High press, more vertical, more youth, and new leadership." No one looked directly at Messi, but everyone heard it. Rodrigo de Paul shifted in his seat. Dibu Martinez stared at the floor. Julian Alvarez swallowed hard. Lautaro crossed his arms. Nico Gonzalez blinked too much. Messi didn't move. Ramirez continued. "We need legs. We need hunger. Some of you will rest. Some of you will rise. That's the game." He listed the starting 11 for the upcoming friendly against Uruguay. Messi's name wasn't there. For the first time in 18 years, Lionel Messi was not in an Argentina starting lineup by choice. Not because of injury, not because of age, because someone thought it was time. The silence that followed wasn't one of confusion. It was grief. The kind that comes when you realize an era might be ending. Not with fireworks, but with a clipboard. Later that afternoon, Messi was the first on the pitch. He jogged, he passed. He didn't speak to anyone except the ball. But behind closed doors, the locker room began to split. Lines were being drawn, not by words, by looks, by silence. And Ramirez had no idea what he had just started. By the next morning, the air around the Argentina camp had changed. Not a word was spoken, but everything was louder. Footsteps, zippers, the squeak of cleats on hallway tile. That's how you know something's wrong in football, when sound becomes the only thing moving. Coach Ramirez arrived on the training pitch with a clipboard and a whistle, but the respect he once commanded now felt borrowed. During drills, Messi did everything right. Sharp turns, quick touches, precise long balls. But he never spoke. Not to teammates, not to staff, not even to Ramirez. It wasn't rebellion, it was something worse. Indifference. In the lunch hall, two camps had quietly formed. One near Messi, one near Ramirez. And players who normally sat together now looked for opposite corners of the room. Rodrigo de Paul, always vocal, was unusually quiet. He kept looking at Messi as if waiting for a signal. Lautaro and Dibu sat with him too, but others, like Julian, McAllister, and even Enzo, chose silence instead of sides. By the third day, Ramirez held a closed-door meeting. Only the coaching staff attended. It lasted 47 minutes. That night, a training video leaked on social media. It showed Messi walking away from a group huddle. No shouting, no gestures, just walking. Commentators tried to spin it as rest management, but fans weren't stupid. The hashtags started trending. Messi benched, Chacher, Ramirez out, must respect the GOAT. Inside the camp, things were worse. In a tactical session, Ramirez asked Angel Di Maria to run point on a press drill. Di Maria hesitated. He looked toward Messi before nodding. Ramirez noticed. "Don't look for permission," he snapped. The room froze. That night, Messi received a call from Scaloni. No one knows what was said, but the next morning, Messi walked into training with fire in his eyes. Not anger, intent. He still didn't speak, but every pass he made thudded harder. Every sprint carved lines into the turf. Every glance said, "I'm not done." And still, Ramirez refused to blink. Lines weren't just being drawn anymore. They were about to be crossed. The friendly match against Uruguay was hours away. Rain tapped gently against the glass as players laced their boots in silence. No music, no jokes, just the low hum of tension vibrating off the walls. Coach Ramirez entered the room with a printed lineup and taped it to the whiteboard. Messi's name was on the bench. Again. He didn't flinch. He didn't protest. He just pulled on his jacket and waited. The first half was a disaster. Argentina looked disjointed. The high press broke down after 10 minutes. Uruguay, calm and compact, picked them apart. The score at halftime was 2-0, and it could have been worse. Ramirez didn't yell. He gave instructions, drew arrows, talked about zones, but his voice lacked weight. Messi sat on the bench, arms crossed, eyes still. When the team walked back onto the pitch, Messi stayed seated, not out of disrespect, out of calculation. Then came the 64th minute. Di Maria limped off. A substitution was needed. Fans in the stadium began chanting a name they hadn't stopped loving. Messi, Messi, Messi. Ramirez hesitated. For a full 7 seconds, he stared at his options. Then, finally, he nodded. Messi stood up, removed his jacket. The stadium roared. He didn't jog in. He walked, slowly, deliberately, like a man carrying history on his back and daring anyone to try and take it from him. In his first 3 touches, everything changed. A no-look pass split 2 defenders. A chip to Lautaro nearly went in. A back heel to McAllister drew applause from the bench. Momentum swung like a pendulum. Uruguay backed off. Then in the 83rd minute, it happened. Messi cut inside. 2 defenders collapsed on him. He flicked the ball wide to Enzo, who squared it to Lautaro. Goal. Argentina pulled one back. They didn't win, but they woke up. After the whistle, Ramirez extended a hand toward Messi. Messi looked at it, then walked past him. Not out of disrespect, out of principle, because respect once taken for granted isn't returned in handshakes. It's earned back, the hard way. The headlines the next morning were split. Some praised Messi's brilliance, others questioned Ramirez's authority, but everyone agreed on one thing: something had changed. Inside the Argentina camp, the energy was sharper, not louder, just sharper. Players trained with shorter tempers. Passes were crisp, but celebrations were hollow. Everyone acted professional. No one smiled. That night, the team reviewed footage from the Uruguay match. Ramirez paused the video during Messi's assist build-up. "This isn't in the plan," he said. Silence. Then Enzo raised a hand. "Maybe the plan needs him." A few heads nodded, others stayed still. Ramirez didn't respond. He ended the session 5 minutes early. Later in the hallway, 2 assistant coaches whispered near the espresso machine. One leaned in and asked, "Do you think Scaloni would have done this?" The other just shook his head. By the next morning, the air inside the camp felt heavier. The kitman, the chef, even the bus driver, they all noticed it. Not fear, not tension, just anticipation. Like everyone was waiting for a shoe to drop. A private conversation occurred behind closed doors, not between Messi and Ramirez, but between Ramirez and Rodrigo de Paul. No one knows what was said, but when de Paul left the room, he looked lighter, less torn, more decided. By the afternoon, whispers had turned into low rumbles. Staffers, assistant coaches, even physios began to feel it, a tide shifting, and that tide had Messi's number written in it. Then came the closed-door scrimmage. 2 squads, no press, no cameras, just intensity. Messi didn't speak once, but his play, ruthless. Every touch calculated, every dribble sharp. He scored twice and assisted once in 30 minutes. The other side couldn't keep up. At one point, he nutmegged Ramirez's chosen captain, intentionally, loud enough that even the trees outside seemed to react. After the match, Ramirez approached Messi. "You're angry," he said. Messi looked him in the eyes. "No," he replied. "I'm just awake now." It wasn't a threat. It was a warning. The kind only legends give. Not to intimidate, but to remind. That some fires don't burn out. They just wait for the wind. 2 days later, the Federation released a short statement. Scaloni would be returning earlier than expected. Effective immediately, he would resume full managerial duties. No mention of Ramirez. No explanation. Just change. When Scaloni arrived at the training grounds, the atmosphere cracked open like a window after a storm. Players greeted him with quiet relief. Even those who had backed Ramirez seemed lighter, unburdened. He didn't call a meeting. He didn't give a speech. He simply walked over to Messi, shook his hand, and whispered something only they heard. Later that evening, the starting lineup for the next friendly dropped. Messi, captain, center forward. Number 10, online, fans exploded. Stadium ticket sales surged. The anthem of a nation realigned itself. And Ramirez? He wasn't fired, but he wasn't visible either. Reassigned, internal duties, out of frame. In the final minutes of training that week, Messi lingered. He stayed behind to collect cones, high-five youth players, speak with a young keeper about positioning. He wasn't proving a point anymore. He was reminding everyone why points didn't need proving in the first place. Greatness doesn't argue, it waits. And when the time is right, it answers, without saying a word.